Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's 5 on Friday, I'm here to share with you my 5-star prediction vlog. So, it has been a minute since I made my 5-star predictions. However, I have been trying to get to them. This is my stack. And we do have a Cielo who's thinking about coming over, so be prepared. Do you have to go behind the camera? She's got this thing about going behind my camera. Come here. Come on. She's so helpful. She wants to be in every video these days. So this is my stack, and I have finally gotten to one of these books. Cielo. I have to set the books down. I'm gonna need both hands. Come here. Oh, so helpful. Ugh. Anyways, I finally got to one of these, and that is The Duet for Home. And I gave this 4.5 stars. So this has 2 POVs. We follow June and Tyrell. The book kicks off with us seeing June and her little sister and her mom ending up at a homeless shelter. And June kind of having to be the one that's taking care of everything because her mom is still dealing with the grief of losing her father and is really not parenting. And then our other POV, Tyrell, is a kid who has been living at Huey House, this homeless shelter where June shows up for like 3 years. And he actually likes it there. He's got friends. He's got a roof over his head. He's got food. He's carved out a pretty decent life for himself there. And while June is not happy about being there at all for any reason, she and Tyrell start to develop a friendship, and he begins to make her see the good side of this homeless shelter. However, just as she's settling in and starting to feel like maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world and seeing how Tyrell can feel so at home here, they find out that this safe place they've gotten for themselves might not continue to be there because the government is potentially trying to move people out faster. And that puts, like I said, Tyrell and June's safe space at risk. So they decide they're going to work together to try to save Huey House and keep the home they found for themselves. So the reason I thought this was going to get 5 stars is because I had read the Van de Beekers series and absolutely adored it. And this definitely had a lot of the same elements, the same heart. It really developed all of these relationships and the bonds that the characters had, like you see in the Van de Beeker series. The only reason this doesn't get 5 stars, well, there's 2 main reasons. One is it took me a little bit to connect with the characters, and I didn't necessarily have that problem with the Van de Beekers. And 2, I was really frustrated with June's mom and the adults around June for not realizing how bad things with June's mom had gotten in the 6 months since her dad died. And that frustrated me a little bit, so it dropped my rating down a smidge. But otherwise, I thought this was a fantastic book. I think it does a really good job at looking at homeless shelters and what it's like there and the different kinds of people you see there, and kind of shedding light on the very numerous walks of life you might see for people and how they ended up there in the first place. And I think that is such an important thing because there are so many stereotypes out there about who is at a homeless shelter and why somebody would need a homeless shelter, that I thought it was a really good look at showing a broad group of individuals who are using this particular homeless shelter. I really loved the found family aspects that come into this because they've really found a way to make this homeless shelter into a home. And I think that's also an important message, that sometimes family can be found outside of your blood relatives, that there is a way to build family elsewhere, and that a home is less about a building and more about the people that make you feel safe, that make you feel loved, that bring those good positive vibes and give you that safe space, more so than just the physical building. So I thought this was really, really important. It's a fantastic middle grade. It just had those 2 minor little things that dropped my rating down, but I had a really, really good time with this, and it definitely made me tear up and choke up several times. So that is my first update. I have finally finished my first book. So my hope is that you will be seeing a lot of my face in the next week, because it is March 25th today. So my hope is to finish the other 4 books before the end of March. Will I be able to do it? No idea. Am I going to give it a good try? Yes. Yes, I am. So even though I'm not sure that you would have noticed the difference if I had filmed a clip in January or February or March or even April, I'm telling you now, I'm fingers crossed going to rip through the other 4 books and hopefully get this vlog out to you. I think my plan, and you'll know because you're going to be watching this, my plan, I believe, is for this to go out on the first Friday in April. So if this is the first Friday in April, which is, let me see, the 4th, then I actually did what I had set out to do. So fingers crossed I can do that. So I will check back in with you in a few days when I will hopefully have at least this one done, because it's on my Phase 10 TBR. So this one will absolutely be getting finished in March. So I will see you in a few days and let you know how I'm doing. So I am back with an update as I have finished 2 more of my 5-star predictions. The first one I finished was Serpent of the Sands, and this is the 4th book in the Bright Storm Chronicles series, and I gave this 3.5 stars. So originally, I thought the series was going to be a trilogy, and then Vashti Hardy wrote a 4th book in this universe, but instead of following Maudie and Arthur, we're following a new character named Gan. I believe based on some of the things Gan said, we did meet her in the original 3 books, but it's been so long, it feels like, since I've read them, that I don't actually remember her character and her interacting with our main characters from the first 3 books. She is the princess of her land, and she and one of her uncles had gone on that adventure with Arthur and Maudie, and this obviously takes place after that. Gan longs for adventure. She misses being out and on a skyship, seeing what is out there and having that bond with the other members of her crew, and is just struggling to kind of fit back into life at the Citadel. However, then her other uncle, Timur, falls ill, and Gan believes the only way to save him is to find this cure that is said to be guarded by the Serpent of the Sands. And it was a story that was read to her as a child. So she believes it is true and sets out to see if she can find the Serpent of the Sands and the cure for her uncle. And we see her go on that adventure. However, there is a second POV in this book, and that is of Thorn. And we see him on the streets of, I think it's called Lundown. I don't think it's on the map, because I think the map is, yeah. This map is of Gan's kingdom, or whatever word they use for it, but this is the place where she is the ruler of, up here. And then these would be all the different spots within her kingdom, for lack of a better word. I don't think they use kingdoms, but I can't remember. My brain feels very fried. I finished this today. You would think I would remember. Anywho, he is in, I believe it's called Luntown, which is where Maudie and Arthur are from. And he ends up sneaking aboard a ship to get away and head towards where Gan lives, because something is snatching children. And he ends up crossing paths with Gan and goes on the quest to help her find something to cure her uncle. And this started so slow. I can honestly say, if it wasn't for the fact that I had read the other 3 books in the series and wanted to believe it would pick up, I could have easily DNF'd this. It was a chore to pick up at times, because I just wasn't connecting with Gan the way I connected with Arthur and Maudie. But there were elements to the story that I was curious about, and it did eventually pick up and get to the point where I didn't want to put it down. I feel like there is more to the story based on the way things end, so I would expect to see another book in this series, and I will pick it up. But I don't think it's going to be a 5-star prediction, because I just don't like Gan as a character the way I did Maudie and Arthur. So that is definitely going to make it hard to get 5 stars in the future. So we'll see. But for this one, the pacing was really, really slow. I was struggling to connect to Gan. There were some clever twists in here that I did enjoy, I needed to be more connected to the character if the pace was going to be this slow, or I needed the pace to be faster if I wasn't going to connect to the character. So sadly, 3.5 stars is as high as I can give this one. And then I read Some Like It Cold, and I gave this 3.25 stars. I was disappointed with this one. So this is by Elle McNichol, and I have loved her middle grades. She is a neurodivergent author that writes in own voices. So our main character in this one is Jasper, and she's coming back home for the holidays. She's kind of a bit of a golden girl. Everybody in town loves her. And what she's not telling anybody is that she intends for this to be like her last time home. She's got a plan set out for herself. She's got a list of things she wants to do, and then she's going to say goodbye to her hometown forever. And one of the people she's really looking forward to saying goodbye to is our other POV, Arthur. And Arthur runs the, I believe, movie theater that was left to him by his dad. And he's a budding filmmaker, and he's got this idea for a film based on the town and has been working on filming it. And Jasper coming back to town wasn't exactly in his plans for his film. And he and Jasper didn't exactly get along in school. But they keep bumping into each other. They keep having interactions. It's a small town, so it's expected. And, well, maybe there are some feelings there. And maybe saying goodbye is going to be harder for Jasper than she thought. And maybe Arthur is not as upset by her return as he thought he was going to be. And I went into this knowing this was a YA romance. And yeah, I did not enjoy the romance. I didn't. I really liked the idea of a friendship between Arthur and Jasper. I just wasn't sold on the romance aspect. And there were definitely ways I could relate to Jasper and how being autistic changed how she saw things, changed how she dealt with other people. But we definitely have some differences, and I found those differences a smidge harder to relate to. One of the things she's in town for is the fact that her older sister is getting married, and her older sister treats her like dirt. She is mean and nasty and keeps going, "I'm so sorry. It's because of the wedding. I'm sorry." And Jasper just kind of takes it. I don't do that. It is literally something that Jasper does because for Jasper, it's easier with her neurodivergence to just not create conflicts. And I'm in the exact opposite. If somebody is doing that to me, I'm more likely to get really angry. And maybe it's because I have an anxiety disorder as well. I don't know. But I really, really couldn't relate to that. And I just was so frustrated with Jasper letting all of these people, because it wasn't just her sister, treat her in a way she didn't deserve to be treated. And that brought down my enjoyment because I didn't want to keep reading. It was making me angry. And I am feeling enough negative emotions in 2025 that I didn't love being in a book that was making me angry and frustrated. And so I think that brought down my enjoyment. I had hoped it would get better, and it never got to the point where I was like really super enjoying it. This one, like Serpent of the Sands, would have been one that was very easy for me to just put down and walk away from. And if it hadn't been by Elle McNichol, I probably would have. But I've loved her writing, so I thought that at some point it would get in that high 3-star, maybe even hit 4, depending on how it ended. And it didn't. It hung out around that 3.25 star range. And I'm giving it that, even though it definitely sounds like I was very, very not into this book, because I think a lot of it is a personal thing. And I think this was pushing on some of my own personal triggers in some ways. So I didn't want to judge it too harshly because of a me thing, because I can see how that could be Jasper's truth and Jasper's reality and how Jasper would react to these situations, even though I am the exact opposite. And I'm glad that that representation is out there because, again, not all autistic people have the same view of the world, react in the same ways. And I think it's important to have that on page and see those differences because there is just so much. What's the word I'm looking for here? I can't think of the word, but like, we're all so very different despite the fact that we're all autistic. So like, there is a word. I mean, it's 2:20 in the morning, so it is not surprising that the word is not coming. There is indeed a word for what I'm looking for, but like, there's just so many differences if you got a room full of autistic people together that yes, we would have some commonalities, but we would probably have a lot of differences too. And again, I also have an anxiety disorder and depression, and those things start to get mixed into it and creates differences to somebody who is autistic and doesn't have those issues on top of it. So yeah, I really, really wanted to love this book, and I didn't. So 3.25 stars it is. And that is my update. So that leaves me with Ocean Squid Explorers Club, which I'm now terrified about because I read the first 3 books in that trilogy and loved them. And now I'm reading book 4 and I'm worried it's going to be like the Bright Storm Chronicles. And then The Secret Language of Birds. I'm less worried about that one because I've only read 1 book by that author. So that could be the outlier, or it could be that this author gets 5 stars and then 3 stars. I won't know until I've read more of their work. So I'm less worried about that one, but I'm really, really worried about the Ocean Squid Explorers Club. So hopefully in the next couple of days, I will have an update on one or both of those, and I will find a 5-star amongst these books, or at least some high 4s. That would be nice. So I am back because I have finally read the last 2 of this round of 5-star predictions. We'll start with the Ocean Squid Explorers Club. This is the 4th book in the Explorers Club series, and I gave this 4.5 stars. So in the first 3 books, we follow Stella, who wants to be the first female explorer in the Polar Bear Explorers Club. We follow her on her adventures throughout that one. And in this one, we are switching and we are following Ursula, who is a maintenance worker at the Ocean Squid Explorers Club. And like Stella, all she wants to do is be an explorer, but she's hiding a secret that could make that very, very tricky. But when the club comes under threat, she has no choice but to kind of throw caution to the wind and teams up with some other young people who are either explorers or would like to be, to band together and go on an expedition in their submarine, the Blowfish, that brings them through quite dangerous waters. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know that I enjoyed it as much as the Polar Bear Explorers Club because I think I liked the characters and the relationships better, but I thought this was a solid start to introducing a whole new crew of characters to us. One of the things I really liked about this one is seeing Ursula's relationship develop with her new crewmates. The first being Max, who's really into inventing with robots. The second is Jai, who is a very, very well-known, well-decorated explorer. And the third is Jai's sister, Jeannie, who has an interesting talent of her own that I think I will let you discover as you read. But it is really intriguing seeing how they go about navigating being on this journey and the things they encounter and how they have to kind of work together to get around that, despite the fact that they don't necessarily start out trusting each other, and Jai can be very protective of his sister. There was a lot of interesting things that happened throughout this book that I think kept me very engaged. I flew through the last 100 pages and it was really hard not to pick up book 5. Book 5 is on my April TBR, and I would not be surprised if I tried to squeeze book 6 on there, even though I probably shouldn't, because I'm just so invested in the story and where it's going. Like, there was a huge twist at the end that I didn't see coming, and now I'm just absolutely speechless as to where this is going because there's just so many moving parts. I think this has built up a lot of intrigue for this particular arc, and I can understand how people might miss Stella, but I think Alex Bell has done a great job of introducing this new crew and making you care about them. So super, super invested in this. It was just, there was a little bit of adjustment getting into these characters, so that's why I didn't get the 5 stars. And then the last book I needed to read was The Secret Language of Birds, and this one I did give 5 stars. I finally got my 5-star. So this, funnily enough, is actually a companion novel to Song for a Whale. I think that's what it's called. Yes. And I didn't know that going into this. Early on in this novel, we hear the character from Song for a Whale mentioned. And so our main character in this one, Nina, knows Iris, who is the main character from Song for a Whale. And they live in the same world. They, at one point, went to the same school. So they are definitely companion novels. And I'm assuming that the next book she has coming out, which involves a boy named Max and an octopus, is probably going to be set in the same world. So I'm calling them companion novels. So as a series, I didn't know I was reading. But this one follows Nina. And Nina is the middle child of 5. And a random bathroom break at like a convenience store leads to Nina seeing some birds and following them, which leaves her getting left behind at this rest stop, but really does start her fascination with birds. And we see her kind of fall in love with them. So her older sister ends up suggesting she spends at least part of her summer at her Aunt Audrey's summer camp. And after chatting with her parents about it, she convinces them and gets to go. Shortly after being there, she ends up finding out that there are these 2 whooping cranes who have built a nest in the marsh near the camp. And whooping cranes are I believe, an endangered species. And she, with her immature birding knowledge, kind of knows this and knows that they don't breed in Texas. They're not seen in Texas. It's been like 100 years since whooping cranes have been in Texas. So she ends up calling a wildlife expert to let them know. And while they can figure out who the male crane is, they have no idea who the female crane is. And 3 other campers end up finding out about the cranes. And Nina and these 3 other campers end up kind of keeping an eye on the cranes for the wildlife experts, while trying to see if they can figure out who the female crane is. And I just adore this. Y'all know I'm totally in love with birds. Like, it's been something I've fallen in love with. So this was absolutely fascinating to see that bird bug bite somebody else. I love how Nina comes across these cranes and how she manages to discover that, yes, they are the whooping cranes she thinks they are. I like her campmates who get in on this secret with her and how their relationships develop, and how she struggles with the idea of wondering whether she's actually making friends, because she's kind of always felt like she didn't quite fit in. And I just really, really love the journey she goes on. Like I said, I love the bird knowledge that we get in this and the relationships she develops. The mystery of who this female crane is and how she got there and the steps they take to try to figure that out are absolutely fascinating. And again, added a fun little element to this book. This was another one I just flew through, did not want to put down, but it caught me from the word go. Hence the 5 stars as opposed to the 4.5 for the Ocean Squid Explorers Club. So absolutely love this and cannot wait for the next book, which comes out in October. So I definitely could see that squeaking into a 5-star prediction at the end of the year. So there you have it. That was my round of 5-star predictions. Let's see if I can remember. So I had 1 5-star in The Secret Language of Birds. I had 2 4.5s with the Ocean Squid Explorers Club and a duet from home. And then I had a 3.5 with Serpent of the Sands and 3.25 for Some Like It Cold. So I didn't dislike any of my books, but I had a few that I didn't love. And then I had 3 that I absolutely did love and 1 that is definitely a new favorite. So not a bad round of 5-star predictions, if I do say so myself. So basically, I'd recommend all of them except for Some Like It Cold, mainly because I think that is going to be a judgment call as to whether it's a type of book you would enjoy. Either way, I think I did pretty good predicting some books I at least loved, and I did get a 5-star. So pretty happy with that. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me star emojis. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.